Hello and welcome to my Civilization 6 guide to Deity with me, Adrenaline. We're playing with Wu Zetian of the Chinese Empire today. We are playing on a shuffle map and we are playing with the usual settings of tech civic shuffle and with monopolies and corporations and, online speed, disaster level 4 and so on. This is turn 1 and we have a few options to make. We are a little bit off the coast. I would like to settle the opening city on the coast. And obviously to get more information, before you commit your settler to any movement, it's probably advisable to use the warrior first. We have an open area to walk through down here. We can now see that there's kind of nice little bit of a lip here with regards to a first settlement for the capital. So I think, even though there is the potential for a mine and getting the appropriate boosts with the salt, a quarry with the marble, we still have access to the irrigation boost with the grain here. And settling on the bananas seems like a decent spot for a nice, healthy, growing city. Okay, so let's have a look at her kit, and she has quite the unique set of skills, and I would particularly like to be able to run her for a science game at some point. However, I tend to play these games where the wind takes me. I might even be able to get around to making another guide on specifically how to choose what direction you want your game to go in regards to win cons, because there are definitely differences, and of course terrain is one of them. And having a plethora of mountains in particular can help lead to, and geysers, to having a science race, because you actually can then make really decent high adjacency campuses. But if you don't have that, and if instead you have like better city-states for other things, maybe you have Antananarivo instead of Geneva, whatever it may be, the terrain, the situation, how close you are to other civilizations, all these things kind of blend in, and we kind of just went with culture because that just seemed best for this particular game. Anyway, getting into it. Manual of Entrapment. All offensive spies operate at one level higher. And that's partly why, because spies in culture, I don't really steal great works, whereas I do definitely steal tech boosts. So, that would be really useful. Spies kind of took a bit of a backseat in this game. Whenever an offensive spy mission is successful, you also gain 100% of the faith, culture, and science of the targeted city earned that turn. Receive a free spy and extra spy capacity after discovering defensive tactics. Can purchase spies of faith. Now, all those things are incredibly powerful. Being able to not have to produce and use your production line for spies and be able to pay for it some other way, in this case faith, is very powerful. Being able to gain 100% of faith, culture, and science from a city for every mission that you do is incredibly powerful. Like, that's 3 different yields. It's the 3 core kind of like currencies and yields that you use throughout the game. Like, as well as the spy and its spy capacity, as well as the ability to get it at defensive tactics, which is well bloody earlier, like eras earlier than everybody else. I think diplomatic service, which is from getting an alliance that you get from civil service, gives you the boost for diplomatic service that then allows you to build your first spy in like maybe the Renaissance era, which is like the 4th era, because ancient, classical, medieval, Renaissance, versus the 2nd era, classical, with defensive tactics. And having somebody go to war with you is not really what you want, but I usually want to build that anyway, especially for, again, science games, because of Mausoleum Halcyonosis. But, it is incredibly good in the spy aspect. A lot of benefits to profit off there if you use spies effectively and abundantly. Dynastic Cycle. Eureka's and Inspirations provide 50% of civics and technology instead of 40%. That's nice. Again, probably better for a science race because you really care about that tech tree even more so than necessarily just going after particular bullet points. But usually not that noticeable in my experience. When completing a wonder, this I really liked, and this was the benefit I enjoyed most playing this culture game. Receive a random eureka and inspiration from the era of the wonder if available, which it a lot of the times was. It probably generated like 6 to 8 maybe eurekas and inspirations, which is an awful lot. So I was very happy with that. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Chinese unique medieval era unit. Range unit with a range of 1 and high combat strength. It says high combat strength, but that still means they lose horribly to musketmen, which is presumably a tier-based thing. Also, ranged usually loses to melee, I guess. So I experimented a little bit after we got ours. You know, domination's never been my strong point. I still don't find them that impressive. Well, you know, whatever. Great Wall unlocks the builder ability to construct the Great Wall, unique to China. +2 gold provides an increased defensive bonus to gold adjacent to other segments. Additional culture and tourism as you advance through the technology tree for adjacent segments. Must be built in a line along the borders of your empire. Although borders is not strictly true. It can be through your empire. Can only be pillaged, never destroyed by natural disasters. And as per usual, when I talked about it with Qin Shi Huang, even though that was a Diplo game, and Kublai Khan, and all that sort of stuff, whenever I use China, I just don't care. I really don't care for this Great Wall. I think the best thing it's there for, and I don't think I ever used it once in this game, is to get that 4-year score when you need it, when you want it. Otherwise, it's like, my builders matter to me. I mean, I'm often using serfdom because I care for every charge that they give me. 3 is not enough in some cases. And you gonna want me to just start building walls all over the bloody place? Walls that I can't even remove in case I like, oh, I'd actually like to build something else there instead. An opportunity has risen. Oh, never mind. I can't because I can't destroy it. Can I never destroy it? Well, maybe it's only natural disasters. Maybe you can destroy it manually. Maybe you can. But even then, I think I misread that sentence. Even then, it's never worth it. Apart from maybe the first one for your score. It's just never worth it. And I do hope in Civ 7, although it's not necessarily high on my priority list, it would be nice if they made things like this more useful, more reasonable, more desirable. So, I'm sure I've showed this before in the Barbarians guide that I made way back in the beginning when I was still doing general guide videos to Civ 6, but here's another perfect example of how to freely and easily take down a Barbarian camp. So, we have a Barbarian camp very close to our capital, just spawned literally 2 tiles away. And we've just made a slinger. We would like to be able to, of course, not only research astrology to get the religion, but also to boost the archery, kill a unit with a slinger. And that will happen with hopefully this spearman. But to do that, we first want to eliminate this thing from making too many more units, because it's already probably going to stop making them since it already knows about my city. So to do that freely and easily, we will move our warrior to this tile. Now it is 1 tile adjacent from the camp itself. We will then move the slinger to this tile so that it is outside of our city and the spearman can freely see the slinger. The way the AI works is that when it sees a slinger like this, it will change from being in a defensive stance of the shield to wanting to try and go after it, which is perfect for us, because as soon as it does that, we're going to be able to take this Barbarian camp for free and boost, although we can't see it in the moment, the military tradition boost, I think, or you know, civic, I think it's called. The one that wants the boost for taking down a Barbarian camp. So we pass the turn. I do love understanding the AI and knowing how to take advantage of it, just like this. So there's that. We get our 15 gold, or it was 15 gold, right? For taking it down. The danger on the doorstep of Shendu has been defeated. The barbarians are driven away. Well, he's still there, but we'll deal with him. And yeah, within 6 tiles of one of your cities was destroyed by a unit. Oh. Is that why sometimes I take down a barbarian camp and it doesn't mean anything because I don't have a city within 6 tiles of it? That's an interesting thing. That's an interesting caveat that I wasn't paying enough attention to. Because I do believe sometimes that happens. I'm like, why didn't I get era score for it? There's a lot of things that with era score that are hard to kind of understand. And I think the proximity of the city is important. Anyway, plus 3 year score for that. Military tradition, as I said, you can now see it neatly line into effective research on our civics. And with this slinger, yes, it is weaker than the spearman, but we can easily head it back into here for safety and start pelting away at it. And as long as we manage the damage calculations on this right, we can always even move away our warrior, and we'll get our slinger to kill this. Exploring out into the wider world now, and you can see that we have found a couple of city-states in Taruga and Candy. I want candy, and that will be very helpful for culture games because we want relics from Candy specifically. And in the process of our exploration, we have found ourselves a tribal village. But notice that just here, there's a bit of a line. So let's meet the Pete, shall we?
Здравствуйте, я царь Петр. Достойный правитель, подобный вам, должен ценить все самое изысканное. Любите ли вы искусство, подобно мне?
Great. We would love to sample your hospitality. So presumably they're being friendly. Oh, bother, in this crowded place. Already might be one of the record for me. In the first 65 turns, we have met literally everybody. Because they're all here. The whole family's in town within 3 meters of me. Have they not, remember, like, 2 paces away, COVID? And why are they all in my face? Anyway, there was a barbarian camp we had to deal with, but we are pretty much set on that, thankfully. So we dealt with that. But the big key for a game like this, where you kind of have very small amount of land, is to make the most of it. So we've, positioned our cities in ways that allow to have as many as possible, albeit some of them require, given all these city-states and to not be adjacent to fresh water. I'm going to get aqueducts down, but painful. But one thing that will help us, and will help Longxi in particular, with only having minus 4.5 loyalty right now per turn, is getting this Colosseum. Colosseum, save me!
While the Colosseum stands, Rome shall stand. When the Colosseum falls, Rome shall fall. When Rome falls, the world shall fall.
Well, I mean, they're right to a degree. The Roman Empire did fall. But that doesn't mean the world. It just means the change of hands. But anyway, there it is. One of the coolest wonders in the early game. And very helpful in a game like this where you have an awful lot of benefit from the amount of cities that are proximate to this wonder within 6 tiles. Gives our drama and poetry and buttress civic boosts and things. Military training as well.
Lies in the defense.
But some of that was partly because of Wu Zetian's special ability. If you remember, I was saying about how I really enjoyed that. This is one of those instances. So, it seems fortune has smiled upon me this day because we were able to win this border control treaty. And I only remember putting in 1 vote. Unfortunately, we cannot see the votes I put in. But yeah, new districts built by this player act as culture bombs with only 1 vote. And maybe some other people voted for me as well. That's usually how the AI gives me this. So yeah, that's awesome. And the reason why that is awesome is because we're going to be taking 4 tiles off a city-state. And not just 4, but actually 5. Because this one as well. We'll be taking their olive plantation, rather, and their tea plantation. So we're getting luxury goods as well. And then we'll be able to make sure that we have the tiles ready for this national park. So a lot of good things. Remember, this is also not a bad place for a commercial hub because it's adjacent to the river. And it has 2 districts. So it's not too bad either for that. Let alone it being, you know, our choice of acquiring these tiles. So yeah, let's pass that turn and see the beauty in action. And there it is! Look at that difference! World of difference. Much better. A lot of more breathing room now. Very helpful in a game like this when we're still incredibly choked for any land. Mid-game now, and almost 100 turns have passed, and we are building not 1, but 2 wonders at the same time. 2 for the price of 1. Hagia Sophia over in the capital, and Casa de Concentracion in the secondary, which is going to be really helpful. It's going to give us even more adjacency for our theater square, which is already incredibly well endowed with a whole bunch of adjacency already. And it will obviously give us the extra faith, the extra charges, and the extra governor positions. We already used Amani. We can pretty much already certify that for Pingala, because that is the cultural boost he can give us. And if you have a look over here, we've finally been making more cities elsewhere. Not only to the north, but also to the south. So we have finally made enough cities that I feel is comfortable to win with, which is more like 10 or so, maybe even 11, than it is was before. It would have been a bit of a stretch trying to win with these mere 7 cities, but I think now we're able to realistically look towards the end game.
It is a beautiful and important monument and an international intercultural treasure. Unless and until it can be shared by both religions in harmony, which would be a grand idea, it should remain a secular building, honoring both religions who have made it beautiful. All other lands found on the western side of the boundary shall belong to the King and Queen of Castile and their successors.
There they are, both of them, in all their beauty. It is always nice to watch these videos come up with the work that you've made in each game. So I think it's about high time we deal with this religious situation, don't you? Look at this annoying situation with Russia completely dominating all my main cities with their blasted faith. Of course, we want to get our reliquaries boost, you know? Because we have relics now. We want to get those cathedrals down. We want to be able to do all these things. And how do we go about doing that? Well, one part of it was to settle cities elsewhere so that hopefully they don't get involved. But they're here anyway, which is really irritating. The other part is to finally build a holy site, which we just completed, and purchase ourselves a shrine and a temple. And get those apostles running. We also might as well buy the cathedral as well. Look to fill that one up. We're currently at 23 gate works. We'll hopefully get to 80 by the end. And this starts our revolution of getting our faith back. As you can see, our economy is quite strong, and it's important that it's the case because we've been able to establish a whole whopping 4,251 gold. And we're going to be using that to buy Gustav Eiffel, having put in 0 great people points. Because of course, in a culture game, I care about my appeal, and if you know about appeal, you know that industrial zones, along with other things made for science games and the like, don't really help with appeal. They reduce your appeal. So I want to, maintain that. I don't build industrial zones. I go about it other ways: harbors, shipyards, policy cards, preserves, other ways to get production. But we are able to buy Gustav. As you can see with that incredible purchase, we've even acquired some era score for it, because we have made a great person travel to our lands thanks to a generous stipend of gold. Now don't forget, with the help of Mausoleum of Halicarnassus over here, it meant that we were able to use not only 2, but 3 charges of our 240 production towards Wonders, which has been incredibly helpful, both in getting Christo Redentor, as well as being able to get, indeed, the Hermitage. And we were also able to get Orzagas in the process, which is very nice. So, to cap things off, one of the final wonders to get in the culture game, it is, of course, Sydney Opera House. We have 8 turns currently. That reduces it to 1 turn remaining. And of course, alongside it, we have the Eiffel Tower to build, which we also did manage to get Petra in this city for a nice little bunch of desert tiles, of course, some national parks. It's a really nice combo, this, because the appeal from the Petra supporting desert tiles, which can then be valuable even though they themselves are not necessarily, because the desert tiles get boosted by the Petra and get boosted both in their production and yields and all that sort of stuff, as well as the appeal and everything else. Anyway, Gustav, Eiffel Tower, woohoo! Gonna see both of these coming down imminently as our final wonders take place.
An opera begins long before the curtain goes up and ends long after it has come down. It starts in my imagination, it becomes my life, and it stays part of my life long after I've left the opera house. I ought to be jealous of the tower. She is more famous than I am.
There it is, our final 2 wonders of the game, and isn't it a glorious sight? A wonderful world, you could say. And there it is, everyone, in 156 turns, which is quite quick, to be honest, compared to some other culture games. We have established our breaking point. In 1 turn, when we pass the turn, we will have won the game. And it's no surprise, really, because of the powerhouses that we've built. As you can see by these numbers, we even have a 21 in terms of, like, visiting tourists from here. And a 23, holy moly. And you know why? It's because of the great works. It's lovely to build wonders, I get that, I understand. But look at this wonder. 1. And all this other rubbish. At least Hermitage, albeit quite late, because time is also a big factor. Don't forget that. But it's not the biggest. Hermitage with 5 here. The Colosseum, for instance, wasn't the wonder that we built, one of the first ones we built. And that only has 4 over all this time. It's been surpassed already by Hermitage, which has come maybe 80 turns later. Maybe 70 turns later. Considerable amount later, and still overpassed it. The biggest aspect to winning culture games, tourism games, is great works. And if you have a wonder that can house great works, like St. Basil's Cathedral that houses 3 relics, especially when we're talking about relics, and reliquaries, this is incredibly powerful. One of the best culture wonders you can absolutely get. And, you know, everyone always talks about Mausoleum of Halicarnassus being an ever-weather type wonder that you want to get in every game or whatever. But actually, for culture, St. Basil's Cathedral is far more powerful. Like, yes, I don't care that I don't have any tundra tiles in this city, just like one never really builds Halicarnassus for the coastal tiles, but of course there are quite a few in this case. But it's the wonder alongside the relics that make this great. It's also why, you know, you really want to get Apadana. Not really for the envoys or anything like that. That's by the by, that's bonus. It's great, whatever. It's the 2 slots that can hold anything. If you can hold relics and have reliquaries, again, is insanely powerful. That's how you win a culture game, and I think we've done pretty well today.
The worth of a culture is not measured by its accomplishments, but in how those accomplishments last and how they are remembered. The beauty that you have inspired our people to create will ensure that our culture stands for all time.
Well, there it is, everyone. A culture victory with Wu Zetian against adversity, trapped in a small enclave of land before we finally found our way to spread out. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to like the video, follow the channel, and maybe leave a comment below. I look forward to seeing you then.